I
call the meeting to order. We are here to talk about emergency transport arrangements after the closure of Kap Shui Mun Bridge. The meeting will last till 10:55. Is paper number CB bracket 4245/15 to 16 bracket 01 and 02 and 03. Let's invite the government to join us. I'd like to remind members the next regular meeting will take place on the 18th of December, but we would like to start early, to start at 10 a.m. So the next regular meeting is on the 18th of December. It will start at 10 o'clock because there is an additional item. I welcome Professor Anthony Zhang and his team. I am going to dispense with the introduction to make time. We only have an hour and a half today. Secretary. Chairman, on the 23rd of October this year in the evening, there was an incident when the Kap Shui Mun Bridge came into collision with a bridge. But because of inadequate communication, the public expressed concern about transport arrangements. That's why we're here, the government departments, the MTRCL, the airport authority, are all here to talk to you about the emergency transport arrangements, and our work should a similar incident takes place in the future. About 2 hours after the incident, the bridge was reopened again. However, the government attaches a lot of importance on this incident. We think that we have to learn a lesson, have to step up our preventative measure. There was an interdepartmental meeting on the 29th of October. We have come up with a number of conclusions, namely, first, strengthen internal communication. We will work with departments and organizations, say for example Marine Department, Transport Department, Highways Department, the Airport Authority, and MTRCL, to improve the contingency arrangement and the notification mechanism. That also includes the management company of the bridge. Together with the management company, which is the TIML-MOM Limited, when the alarm is triggered, there will be a communication mechanism put in place and plans formulated. And of course, government departments will make arrangements for the relevant staff to go to the site to conduct safety inspections. There will be more manpower put into it to enhance the effectiveness of the contingency measure. The second part is to strengthen and improve communication with the public. We will inform the public as soon as possible of the background of the incident, potential impact on traffic, so that the public can make travel plans or transportation plans. Should similar incidents happen in the future, the Emergency Transport Coordination Center of the Transport Department will inform the public of the road closure, liaise and coordinate with public transport operators and the AA. When making the announcements, the public will be notified that the government has triggered the contingency plans and there will be limited services provided, and to remind the public to keep abreast of the latest information. To improve the channel of information dissemination, the Transport Department is considering putting in place a mobile phone application to disseminate special traffic news. The AA will also explore ways to use the existing mobile phone app to enhance dissemination of information to airport users. Thirdly, we will consider strengthening traffic relief measures, including further enhancements and to avoid a collision. Well, currently the bridge is the only way linking the airport island with the mainland. Should something happen, there are only so much that we can do, because that is the only land transport available. If we make use of sea transport, the service capacity will be limited. So we would like to prevent similar incidents will happen. So we will step up patrol of the height limit of vessels going through the fairway. We will also step up education and publicity to educate the public and to enhance their safety awareness. Fourthly, to enhance the external transport link from the Lantau link and the Airport Express. Well, with the commissioning of the Tuen Mun Chek Lap Kok link, the external connectivity will be improved. The southern part will be commissioned soon, and the northern part will also be commissioned shortly afterwards. The Transport Department will conduct a feasibility study of Route 11, which links up North Lantau and Yuen Long. This Kap Shui Mun incident has given us directions to reflect, including contingency measures, communications and channels of communication, and also long-term transport plans. We will continue to look into connectivity between the airport island and the Hong Kong island to prevent similar incidents from happening again. I'm happy to take questions. I'll now read out the names. Wong Kok Heng, Poon Siu Ping, Tang Ka-piu, Michael Tien, Leung Chi Chang, Kwok Ka-ki. 5 minutes each. Mr. Wong Kok Heng. Thank you. On the 23rd of October, there was this accident. You can call it an accident, or you can say that it is not an accident. What it showed was that the government cannot react quickly enough. They don't have the awareness of something unforeseen happening, because anything can happen. You can't be too prepared. Well, the contingency plan, they said, was that 2 hours afterwards, the first ferry was sent to take passengers. What does it show? It shows that we have not put in place preventative measures, and we don't have concrete preparations, so that the AA, the airport, MTRCL, and ferry operators were caught unawares. And I'd like to say again, I'd like to criticize them again. In the last term, in the term before last, in the Legislative Council, I've already said that the link between the airport and Chek Lap Kok, there should be more than road transport. And so far, the link is just road transport without railway service. So I have a question for the Secretary. In the long run, Chek Lap Kok Tuen Mun link, the Tuen Mun Chek Lap Kok link, would you consider putting in railway service there? If not, why not? And the contingency measures, would you consider jet foils? stand by in the transitional period, because anything can happen. It doesn't just take a barge. You know about the terrorist attacks. It can happen any time. Of course, it may be an extreme, but it may happen. So there will be jet foils or high-speed vessels standby to provide services within, say, several minutes, several hours. Why don't we have them? So what improvement measures are there? Two questions there. Indeed, after the incident, we will have to think whether there is any room for improvement. But it doesn't necessarily have to be like what Mr. Wong said, that relevant government departments did not do anything. The Transport Department liaised with the relevant operators for traffic transportation services coordinations, and they've also talked to operators to provide extra services, and it took place shortly afterwards, 2 hours afterwards. Mr. Wong also asked about railway service between the Tuen Mun Chek Lap Kok link. Well, we have to take into consideration on the transportation of the district and other modes of transport, and demand. In the transport strategy we have announced, we have already mentioned that there will be further improvement on railway service. In the past, we have not considered adding a railway service to Tuen Mun Chek Lap Kok link. A lot of legislators, including the chairman, asked us to consider whether there should be a railway service in the Tuen Mun Chek Lap Kok link. We will consider that under the scope of transportation development over that area. And as to whether high-speed vessels can be put in place, I will defer to the director.
Like the ferry that we are now using, it is not possible for the ship operators to have vessels on standby so that they could be mobilized in the event of an emergency. When there is an emergency, they would see how many vessels they can deploy apart from their regular schedule of service. To suggest that we use high-speed jet foil to take passengers to Lantau Island. Actually, high-speed jet foils, I think, I can only park at the Sky Pier. The Tung Chung Pier, given that not all vessels can berth at that pier given the height of the vessel and the height of the pier as well. So for high-speed jet foils to berth at the Tung Chung Pier would not be technically feasible. So as far as transporting Tung Chung residents back to Tung Chung, we still have to rely on the regular vessels. Well, I think we need to be vigilant and be prepared for contingencies or emergencies. I think we need to be prepared. For example, if we have terrorists attacking the Kap Shui Mun Bridge or the link road, we need to be prepared for such a scenario. Mr. Pun. Well, the Secretary said that on the 29th you convened an interdepartmental department and came up with some improvement measures. First of all, you proposed that you need to strengthen the internal communication and to fine-tune your notification system. Actually, from the traveling from the airport to the urban area, it involves land and sea transport. And according to your paper, you refer to the 4 vessels and carrying 700 people. That actually is very limited compared with the population living near the airport. So how can we improve on that situation? My main question is that the Highway Department, we understand, had already liaised with the relevant, departments concerned, and that you will deploy your staff to arrive at the scene as soon as possible. I don't know what is the actual establishment like. Does it, in the light of this incident, does it mean that you really are short on staff, and how many additional staff would you need to hire to be prepared for such scenarios? We understand that the TD and the AA would also conduct regular drills to prepare for any contingencies. But this time, I don't know how you arrange to actually, relieve the traffic congestion, because many drivers were stuck for a long time. And how do you prepare to conduct your drills now and going forward? And finally, in your paper, you tell us that you plan to build a third link to connect with Lantau and Route 11. So I'd like to know what is the progress of this, idea, and I don't know how it will impact on the traffic, for Tuen Mun, and when will this Route 11 be implemented? Well, Mr. Pan asked several questions regarding the ability of the Highways Department to cope with contingencies, and for drills, the TD can also reply. Regarding Route 11, perhaps this committee would know that earlier in July, we already briefed the transport panel regarding the overall traffic situation of Northwest New Territories, and I did mention, Route 11. But at this stage, we're only planning to fight for resources, to apply for resources to conduct a feasibility study. We haven't yet finalized any plan. We will need to look at the overall traffic situation for the whole of Northwest NT. In July, we said that from the perspective of the THB, we think that that Route 11 linking up Yuen Long and Lantau deserves to be considered. Regarding the carrying capacity of vessels, no matter how many additional emergency vessels we deploy or any other forms of public transport, whenever the bridge is closed, then for the land transport, linking up the similar and the and airport certainly could be improved. And it's not just that the Hong Kong airport is linked to the city via a bridge, same for the airport in Tokyo or Osaka. So I think the most important thing is that we should prevent any accidents from happening. Chairman, perhaps through you, I would like to invite the Director to also supplement. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Dr. Pan, for your question. The Ching Ma Bridge and the Kap Shui Mun Bridge are managed by the management company and operated by the management company. And the Highways Department is responsible for conducting technical supervision. The Highways Department has a contingency system in place, and that contingency system means that when we receive any additional requests for us to conduct investigation, we can certainly deploy our colleagues to conduct the inspection during the evening. But that is not a unit which is manned by people around the clock. In the light of this incident, we've realized that we need it. That it would be best to man that unit around the clock. The improvements that we've carried out so far is that before the incident happened, the Highways Department already has a communication center, and whenever it repairs any reports about road, damages on the roads around the clock, I think for the whole section from the Ching Ma Bridge to the communication system, I think we are able to deploy our staff to carry out inspection at any time of the day. On the day in question, when we received the report, we immediately went to the bridge to find out what happened. But given the transport, congestion, our colleagues were not able to arrive at the scene. And that's why we had to liaise with the Marine Department and also the government flying service. And they were able to deploy vessels and helicopters to take our staff to the bridge to conduct inspection. Furthermore, we also have, our colleagues carry out inspection around the clock. So we believe that we are able to cope with any emergencies at the moment. Mr. Tang Ka-piu, I think the incident and the closure of the bridge has never happened since the bridge has been commissioned for 18 years. Nobody would have imagined that the bridge would need to be closed and that the only land link would be affected. I was also surprised that the government had also not imagined that this scenario would actually happen. You have a 24-hour, notification system, but you don't have staff on call around the clock to conduct an inspection. Like Mr. Wong Kok Heng said, I think you simply lack the vigilance and you don't have a good contingency plan. For the Tung Chung residents, I think even people in Discovery Bay couldn't board the vessels and they have to go to Mui Wo. When they boarded the ferry, they arrive at Mui Wo and they have to wait for a long time before they can return to Tung Chung, at which time the bridge was reopened already. So overall, I agree with the Secretary. If we could, step up the water transport, it cannot replace the land transport. So could you tell us what is the carrying capacity of the waterborne, transport? Say, for example, for ferries serving Mui Wo, could you improve on the frequency so that an alternative option is available? And also, can you enhance or step up the service to Discovery Bay? I think the ferry operated by the Motorboat and Tugboat Association can only carry 700 people. That is far from enough, and it takes 2 hours for a round trip to the airport. So, like Mr. Wong said, the jet fuels to Macau, there is one ferry for every 15 minutes. Can we also do the same here? So for the waterborne transport, if we could mobilize all the vessels that we could deploy in the event of an emergency, what would be the carrying capacity? Could you give us a number? And secondly, I hope the Secretary and the AA could answer this question. The residents had to go to work and return to home after work. Another question is about the airport. Whenever there is an accident and the bridge needs to be closed, does it mean that the operation of the airport will be completely paralyzed and had to be closed? As you said, the water transport cannot replace land transport. So when something happens to the bridge, then the airport operations will be put to a halt. Well, I'll ask the AA to answer the question. I think the AA already has a contingency plan right at the beginning. Highway Department. Well, regarding substitute waterborne transport, there are several things that we can do. According to the paper, we have actually have an agreement with the Motorboat and Tugboat Association, and this association provides passenger ferries, and many of the ferry operators are its members, and they regard emergency service as part of their social service, and each and every time they have been most helpful. And this agreement is not just limited to Lantau Island or what would happen after the bridge was closed. If there is a need for emergency ferry service anywhere in the territory, they would deploy the vessels to help. According to our agreement, upon receiving our notification, they would immediately need to set up their own command center, and then depending on how many vessels the members can provide or deploy, I'm sorry, please tell us what is the maximum capacity. Perhaps you may need to provide additional ferry services in Chinwan and Mui Wo. What would be the additional capacity? I'll come to that in a while. According to our agreement, for Discovery Bay, we've also asked the Discovery Bay Ferry Company to step up the frequency from one vessel for every 30 minutes to 20. So they deployed 9 vessels within a matter of more than an hour, and the vessels were fully occupied, carrying more than 4,000 passengers. There is also a ferry service from Tung Chung to Tuen Mun to Tung Chung via Shalawan. If the incident had lasted longer, we would require the operator to step up the frequency, mainly to serve people traveling from Northwest NT to Tung Chung. And for vessels from Central to Mui Wo, we could also, increase the frequency. We also have this understanding that the operator will be able to step up the frequency whenever there is an emergency. As to how much the frequency could be improved and how quickly it could be done, now, this time the incident happened when most of the staff were already off duty. So it would depend on how long it would take for the staff to return to the place of work. So if they were already off duty, then it may take longer for them to return to work. But they all know that they need to go back to provide emergency service as soon as possible. Now, first of all, I'd like to say publicly that I really appreciate the Secretary for sending all the heads of departments to attend our meeting today so that we can put our questions to them directly. And I think this is a very responsible on your part. Now, I have a few questions which I hope your team would clarify, if you don't mind, Mr. Secretary. First of all, a question for the Marine Department. You do have patrol boats patrolling the sea, and and they would ensure that any tugboats exceeding a certain height would not be able to go past the bridge. So from the time the tugboat, went beyond the threshold to the time of the impact, how long would the interval have been?
The distance, no. Time-wise. Well, let me give you more information. No, don't do that. I'll need about 2 minutes. Well, that would be about 2 minutes. So the vessel's traveling slowly. So it's a very small area. About 450 meters, 2 minutes, yes. Well, at the beginning, you knew that for certain vessels are not allowed. What about bigger ones? There will be more trouble, right? Over the years, has it occurred to you to have some launches stationed there to patrol the area so that vessels that are not allowed will not gain access? Well, before the 23rd of October, we have assigned one launch to patrol between Ma Wan and Kap Shui Mun Bridge. Only one launch patrolling Kap Shui Mun Bridge. If the launch spots a vessel, it will take about 2 minutes. So this launch, is it able to stop the vessel from getting into the area? Can it be done? Well, all along, practitioners knew. I just want to ask you, have you made the calculations? One launch checking such a vast area, within 2 minutes, can that launch reach that vessel to inform that vessel? Well, that depends on where the launch is. Perhaps I will ask you in my second round. I do think that is rather problematic. Director for Highways, there are CCTVs on the bridge, and I heard that at the moment when there was an impact, there was another barge passing through. Perhaps that one was lower. Over the years, has anyone checked CCTV? Because I don't think this is the first vessel that has broken the regulations. So over the years, no one's ever watched CCTV. Is that right? Thank you for the question. CCTV monitors what happens under the bridge. When the alarm system was triggered, the management company immediately checked the CCTV footage and found that at that time there was a vessel passing underneath. So the height of the vessel, has it breached the restriction? I believe so. If that is the case, that means in the past decade or so, there are many such vessels that have passed. It's just that this time it was unfortunate that there was an impact. What happened? It's been over 10 years and nothing was done about the CCTV footage. I believe that a lot of barges would go past, and it's just like what they said. Well, I believe a lot of them have breached the law. Nothing was done. Not necessarily, because practitioners know that that area. Well, it's just that at that moment one has breached the law, and you think that that is the only one in the past 10 years or so? Let me say that well, there was no laws breach because the height restriction has not been exceeded. I was talking about those that have exceeded the height restrictions. Over the years, has it been spotted in the CCTV footage? Was that the first one this time? I want to know about more about the background. Well, the Marine Department has given a lot of briefing sessions to the practitioners. I know, but you only rely on the practitioners themselves to abide by the law. Well, the Marine Department and with the monitoring of the CCTV, are you telling me that over so many years there has never been any vessels that have breached the law that have gone under the bridge? You're telling me that this is the first time? Well, this is the first time when the alarm was triggered. You haven't answered my question. I will wait for my second round. Next, Mr. Yu Si-wing. If there is a bridge closure, it doesn't just affect the public. It also affects the airport, airport users, and aircrafts. So has the government considered putting in place a tier system? Say, for example, if it's yellow, then the closure will finish in 2 hours. Red is a certain period of time. Black, another period of time. So that people will get an idea. For people waiting to take the plane, then they can decide whether to wait or not. Well, I would like to hear from the government. The second question. Well, you deploy vessels in the last minute, but will you do some drills or maybe make plans, as say, for example, to send how long it would take to send the first vessel to pick up passengers from the airport, and how many passengers will be picked up in the first hour, how many in second hour, so on and so forth, so that people who are traveling to the airport will get an idea how much time it will take to go to the destination, and those includes those leaving the airport. So have you done any drills, or have you made any plans? About the pier, apart from Sky Pier and Tung Chung Pier, there is the Sunny Bay Disneyland one. It's been laid idle for a long time. If you can use that pier and send high-speed vessels to pick up passengers, to take the Sunny Bay train to go to the airport, it will be a very quick way to move passengers from one place to another. Will you consider that? Well, whether there can be a tier system with the collision, well, when the alarm is triggered, the bridge will be closed for a comprehensive safety check. So it will be difficult to tell how serious the incident is before inspecting the bridge because we can't simply shoulder the risk. We will look into it, how we can improve our procedure when should the alarm be triggered. When it comes to pier and drill, I would defer to my colleagues. Mr. Lam, we conduct regular drills. They're not just for passengers, and should the land transport to and from the airport has been cut off completely, and other airport operations will be affected as well. There are 6 contingency plans depending on the time of the closure of the bridge or the road. And if it's subject to a long suspension, then of course air traffic will be affected as well. One of the contingency plan is to reduce the number of aircraft movements. Director, as the AA said, we have to look at the length of the incident after initial assessment, whether we will decide whether the bridge will be reopened shortly or whether we'll have to close it for a longer time. Yes, we can use the Sunny Bay Pier, but we have to consider our vessel resources, whether we should focus at one location or scatter the resources. If it's over a long period of time, if we have abundant vessel resources, we can consider that. But if it's a span over a short period of time, then we will focus our resources at one pier. That may be better. I do think that we should be prepared. We have to get an experience about the navigation route and ask the operator to do that. Yeah, so that you get an idea how much resources is needed, how long it will take, and how it should interact with the piers. Please consider that. That's your view, yeah? Yes. Mr. Leung Chi-chung. Well, more should be done about our preparedness, about our contingency plans. The government should do more. I see that the Secretary is aware of that because it took place on the 23rd and you convened a meeting a week later on the 29th. I wonder whether it's because you have to get all the information first, but it's taken a week. It seems that your interdepartmental meeting was not very efficient. The bridge was damaged and you had to conduct inspections to check, and as a result the airport island has been completely cut off. So can it be improved? The situation, can it be improved? Some members mentioned about Sky Pier. Well, at around 10 o'clock you already ordered 2 vessel trips. Later they were cancelled. Yes, the bridge was opened at around 9 or so, but at 10 o'clock there were queues. And it was too difficult for people to go to the airport. I don't understand why you cancel the services you have ordered. Lots of people want to go to the airport area, but they could not find out what's going on. Well, I was at the end of the queue. It was about 10 o'clock. I did not know what happened. I thought that was a car collision. I didn't know that it was so serious. What about information dissemination using, say, radio stations or mobile apps? You have a contingency department, the Emergency Transport Coordination Center. Well, can you tell me what more you can do? The two questions under the purview of the Transport Department, I will defer to the Director about the dissemination of information and what improvement measures we can put in place. As I said, then on the 29th of October, I convened an interdepartmental meeting. That wasn't the first one. You might recall that on the morning on Saturday, that is right after the incident, the CE convened an interdepartmental meeting. Director. Well, we have arranged 4 services between 10 and 10:40. That is with the Motorboats and Tugboats Association, but it was not used. At that time, there was congestions on the road, but after the control center has put in place arrangements, it has started to alleviate. For road transport, it will take a lot shorter time than using ferry. And we realized that the passengers would like to get to the airport as soon as possible. So, seeing that the road was open, we have not deployed ferry services. We did not tell the public that they can use the Chun Wan West Pier because it would take them some time to travel to the Chun Wan West Pier and then some more time to go to the airport because they have to go there by bus after getting off the ferry. Using road transport will take them a shorter time. In relation to information dissemination, as the Secretary said in the opening remark, we do think that there is room for improvement. Staff at the coordination center, upon receipt of the information, wanted to liaise with transport operators, including MTRCL and bus operators, to ask them to put in place preparations before disseminating the bridge closure information to the public. Looking back, we realized that we may not have people who would like to know about the information as soon as possible might not be able to do that. So we will disseminate the information in the future to the public to tell them what happened. At the same time, we will liaise with transportation operators.
Dr. K.K. Kwok, Chairman. Having heard our discussion so far, the government seems to be telling us that there had not been any major problem at all. We asked them whether there had been any coordination. They said yes. Any contingency plan in place, certainly they say they do. But it incident happened at 7:38. The road will close at 8, and then the passengers were really, stuck and didn't know what happened. And this is really, ludicrous. When there is we all know the accidents happen from time to time. I think the question has been raised in this council before, and the officials the officials have never really, reviewed the situation. The director and the AA told us that it would depend, and if the closure lasted longer, they would come up with another contingency plan. I think. Why didn't you tell people that you're going to close the road at 8 and you reopen at 9? You wouldn't know, obviously, when the road will be reopened. At the airport express station, you asked people to go to the, Discovery Bay Pier, but the vessel could not take all the passengers. People were carrying their luggage. They were tourists. I think it really made Hong Kong a laughing stock. No matter how much money you give to the tourism board to promote Hong Kong, one incident like this would taint our reputation. I think you are lying, telling us you intend to carry out drills and so on. You didn't realize that you can make use of the sky view Sky Pier, and the dissemination information was so bad. And now you're telling us that you're going to build the third runway. If another incident like this happened, I think it will really be a disaster. No matter how perfect your hardwares are, if the softwares are in such are so bad, if the standard officials are so poor, I mean, it will not do. Could you tell us, how long the bridge would need to be closed before you would take further measures? I think that would be a lot better than what you have done, causing, because as a Hong Kong citizen, we really feel ashamed. We're going to spend more than, $140 billion to build the third runway. I think another incident like this will really make us a laughing stock again. So could you tell us, whether you've drawn any conclusion why we have had this incident? Perhaps Mr. Lam of the AA can explain. Of course, we have explored. We have conducted drills, to cater for different scenarios. Our drills basically take place at the airport island. That is, in case of emergencies, how do we deploy our resources? And when the land link with the airport is closed, and when the government, start the emergency, plan. So how can we help the bonded passengers? I asked you when you will start the drills. Could you tell us when was the last drill? The last drill was conducted in January this year. The drill at that time mainly, look at how the ferries. Why didn't you use the Sky Pier? Because we need the government to actually activate the service there. Why didn't the government, mobilize the Sky Pier? Chairman. When the alarm was triggered upon impact, the Highways Department would need to find out what happened. If after the inspection we discovered that the bridge would need to be closed for a longer time, obviously we might have to consider activating the Sky Pier, but that could only be done after we've completed our inspection. Well, if that's the case, according to your mentality, many of the ferries wouldn't be able to help. Well, normally, how long would these inspections take place, Director of Highways? Normally, it would depend on the circumstances at the time. It's difficult to make a prediction. If we cannot find any structural damage, of course we can reopen the bridge faster. If we discover any structural damage, it would require a much detailed inspection. Chairman, my question for the Secretary is this. So after working on the inspection for several hours, does it mean that the passengers have to wait for a few more hours? Chairman, you've also used a lot of time. Now, Chairman, well, this is the first time that the alarm system was triggered, and within 2 hours, the Highway Department was able to finish its inspection, and it shows that the ferry service could resume, in which case we didn't use the Sky Pier. Whenever there are major, disasters such as typhoons, the airport operations will also be affected. On the day in question, if the Highway Department was satisfied that the inspection required more than 2 hours, then we would come up with other contingency arrangements. Chairman, I think the incident involving the Kap Shui Mun Bridge, from the time the incident took place to the time you completed the inspection and reopened the traffic, all took place within 2 hours. And I don't think the department has done a bad job in terms of contingencies, because this is the reality. In the light of such circumstances, a lot of professional expertise is required before you can conduct all the necessary inspection that was required. and do all the liaison work before you come up with a decision. And that is not an easy decision because it is a very important decision. You have to be satisfied that the bridge was safe and that it could resume operation. It is right that we should expect high standards of the administration, but still, I think they've not done badly. This time, I think we have been fortunate because the inspection showed that there had not been any major damage, had not been any structural damage. But if unfortunately you have an incident, whatever the nature, resulting in the only land link with the airport having to be suspended for a long time, it would really, create a lot of inconvenience. And so I think, first of all, we should learn from the experience of this incident this time. We should review how we have performed in terms of all the liaison work which have been carried out. Different departments should have different contingency plans in place. I think I think you must have clear guidelines laid down in place, stipulating at different times or stages what different departments needed to do. And also you need to conduct drills. My second suggestion is that we really need to review whether there are any modern technologies that can help us prevent incidents like this from happening. With the present system, by the time we discovered, a vessel exceeding the specific height restriction approaching the bridge, there's no way you can stop it. By the time you realize there's a danger, the ship would be already very close to the bridge. It would arrive, the impact would take place within 2 minutes. So within a matter of 2 minutes, can you stop a vessel from really can you stop the vessel from hitting the bridge? So I think we need to explore whether we can have any modern technologies to detect such vessels, much earlier before they arrive, near the bridge. So I think we have to consider, in terms of the technologies available, whether we can do better. As whether or not, I will certainly tell the Marine Department as to whether that they should, consider that possibility. Earlier this year, the Marine Department had engaged a consultant to see how we can, install equipment to detect the height of the vessels approaching the bridge. The consultant had conducted some research, and at certain ports, they discovered that such equipment had already been installed, for example, in Singapore and Denmark. The consultants' study concluded that the equipment that they are using are subject to some errors, especially during the evenings and rainy days, and therefore such equipment or the data measured by such equipment could only be used for reference. It could not serve the function of a warning system. Before the incident happened, our consultant had also liaised with the expert at the Polytechnic University as to whether there are any equipment available to detect the height of the vessels approaching the bridge. The consultant, we're still working closely with the consultant on this, Mr. Cheng Kam Lam. Chairman, if you allow me some extra time, even if you can find an equipment that can accurately measure the height of any vessel, finding the right place to install the equipment would also need to be considered carefully. As the chairman said, you need a very long distance to stop a vessel from hitting the bridge. So this is something that we need to explore further with the consultant. So you're now, exploring this with the consultant. Yes. Could we when they have any preliminary conclusion, could we ask them to give us an update? Okay, Mr. Cheng Kam Lam, thank you. For incidents of this kind, it only happens once in 18 years. Of course, members have focused their attention on the incident of the vessel hitting the bridge. Other members have commented that we need to have a warning system. Certainly there are technologies which can do that. But how effective are these warning systems? I really am skeptical. If you could, trigger a warning, 500 meters or 1 kilometer beforehand, given the speed of the vessel traveling at the time, even if it is traveling at less than 5 kilometers per hour, it only takes 5 to 10. If you can stop the vessel within 5 to 10 minutes, then it may work. Otherwise, even if you have sounded out the warning within 5 to 10 minutes, the vessel would have hit the bridge. So I think it just wouldn't work. Instead, I think you need to educate all the vessel operators to lower the mast to below 41 meters before you can prevent another accident. Because there would also need to be penalties in place. You need to step up the penalty. Well, this is an accident, and this is the only one over the last 7 to 18 years. Our contingency plan this time is already quite good. I don't think we should deliberately exaggerate the fault or call this, an incident which has made us a laughing stock. I think we need to commend the the excellent performance of the officials. For the contingency plan, we have to consider how long the bridge will need to be closed in the event of the accident. If it is something that could be resolved within 2 or 3 hours, all you need to do is inform people that this accident has happened. For you to come up with any other arrangements within 2 to 3 hours would mean that by the time those arrangements are in place, the problem would have already been solved. So I don't think we should just focus our attention on the vessels. We shouldn't just focus our attention on the need to immediately resolve the problem within a very short time. It's not like, transport on the road. When one road is closed, I can take an alternative route and come up with special transport arrangements.
But when it comes to sea transport, you should realize that the bridge is very important. So what you should consider is that there may be serious accident on the bridge, resulting in a closure of the bridge for a considerable time. So you need to be fully prepared. Say, for example, if the bridge is closed or the road is closed for several hours, assuming that it is peak time at 350,000 people will need to use the bridge, how can you deal with that using vessels in 2 or 3 hours? You may need 200 sailings, so once every 2 minutes. Where can you find the resources to do that? We're talking about all of a sudden just several hours. How can you put in place hundreds of sailings to cater for this rare incident? So we all have to be very practical. I do think that this incident has been handled satisfactorily. And in the long run, we have to consider an alternative route. If the bridge has to be closed for a long period of time, then what about an alternative route? We now have the Hong Kong-Zhuhai Macau Bridge. We can use that. It will link to Shui Mun Highway. We'll see when it will be commissioned. and how it can be used as an alternative route. Of course, we need ferry services as well. If you want to travel from NT West to the airport, then you can take the ferry from Tuen Mun, and if you're and you can use the road if you are traveling from Tuen Mun, but if you're in Kowloon or Hong Kong, then you need ferry services. Mr. James told. Well, I'm asking for figures. I want to do a qualitative analysis. So if you don't have the figures, please give me an information paper. I know that it's impossible to have an equivalent replacement, because the capacity of railway services and road transport of the bridge is completely cut off. Then there is no way you can find an equivalent replacement. But should this happen, say it will last for 1 hour, because at the time when it's closed, you don't know how long it will last. If you assume that it will be closed for 1 hour, so you have to estimate the number of people using the bridge. Some people may be going to work, and travelers going to take the plane. So what is the loss over 1 hour? For the first hour, well, you won't be able to do anything because it will take time to trigger the contingency plan. So starting from the second hour, what is the total number of loss? And then surface capacity of ferries and other modes of transport. Can you plot me a graph and give me a quantitative analysis? I hope the government will understand what I am trying to say. I'm not asking for a total substitution because that will be impractical. I agree to a certain extent with Mr. Chen Kam-lam, but at least we have to know. Well, most of the people will be going to the airport to fly. You can't ask aircrafts to wait for all the passengers. So what is the impact of airport operation? I don't know if you have done this analysis at the request of the Secretary. Well, at least give me a report so that we have an idea. Well, you want the government to tell you whether they understand, or you want them to give you a report. Well, I don't think they will understand me completely, but just give me as much information as possible. I kind of understand what Mr. To said, and we'll try our best. What you're saying is that, if nothing happens, that will be the passenger flow, vehicular flow, and we will need to put in place substitute transportation arrangements. What is the surface capacity by the hour, and the gap. It may not be easy to obtain information about the normal traffic or passenger flow. Well, don't take the extreme cases, say 11 p.m. or peak hours. Then you tell me what is the first hour and what is the second hour. How much can you catch up? Maybe during the third or the fourth hour you'll be able to catch up. What if it lasts till 7 or 8 hours? How many passengers will be affected? I understand what you mean. Let's see if the directors can give us a response now. May I? I would like to talk about the airport because we're most concerned about passengers. If land transport has been completely put to a halt, the only viable option is to relax the restriction of the Sky Pier That is, it will be relaxed to beyond. Passengers are using the Pearl River Delta. Passengers are allowed to travel to the urban area. For every hour, there are about 5,000 passengers. And if we put the Sky Pier to that purpose, we can deal with half of that. During the peak, only 1/3. When the contingency plan is put in place, the emergency plan is put in place, we can commandeer vessels and put them into this use. We already have the contingency plan, and that can be done within a very short time. Can I have a detailed paper, response paper? Because if I were the secretary, I would definitely ask for that. Mr. Albert Chen. I don't think this incident should be dragged into sectarian fights. But, well, after hearing from Chen Kam-lam, I get very angry. You may recall that in 2002, the government has already put in place a design and asked the FC for funding for Route 10 from Ting Long Bridge to Tsuen Wan to North Lantau. That's the lifeline. At that time, the DAB voted it down. And as a result, funding was not given. Were it not for this bridge closure, were it not for the voting down of that, well, passengers will be able to use this Route 10 to travel to the airport. So if you fail to catch your bus or your airport, remember 2002 DAB took the lead to vote the funding application down. As a result, the bridge from Ting Long Bridge to North Lantau has been shelved. DAB supported a link rate, and then when rentals increased, they said they opposed to it. Well, this proposal to build another bridge, DAB voted it down, and they should simply commit hirikiri. Well, back to crisis management. You may recall, Secretary, Tsuen Wan to Central Line incident. I think that was a time shortly after you've taken office. You said that for contingency plans, you will have to consider figures. Say, for example, MTR broke down, how long it would take for buses to be deployed, how many buses will there be, how many stops there should be. Similarly, when something happens to the Kap Shui Mun Bridge, you will need to give us figures. Your colleagues talked about coordination. You may not look at the figures, but you will have to require your colleagues to provide you figures. Well, how many minutes it will take for a meeting to be called, how many buses, ferries will be put in place. You need a concrete plan. Every time you come out, you will be the target, and because you are the accountable official. Your colleagues are civil servants. You will be held politically accountable. So you will have to ask your colleague to give you concrete plans of the contingency plan. If there isn't one, tell the public that there is none. And if you say that, well, for 1 hour, only 1,000 passengers will be picked up, tell us. And then you will have to tell us how do you prioritize who to pick up. Well, I've always been asking to have CCTV installed at the harbors. This incident shows that there is problems with the management of the Marine Department, because in Tingkou there is a Marine Control Center. So the office actually can see the Kap Shui Mun fairway. Were they sleeping? How come they did not know that there was a tall barge with a very tall crane protruding out? They did not know anything. and they were the department responsible for controlling sea transport. In relation to the contingency plan, if by visual inspection that there was no serious damage, I wonder whether the bridge would need to be closed for 2 hours. Yes, it has to be investigated, but if a visual inspection shows that there was no serious damage, professional judgment will tell you that there is no immediate danger. As a result, there is no need to close the bridge. It's just like when the buildings department inspecting an old building, and if there is immediate danger, then the building will be completely closed. So I have questions as to whether you have done what you're supposed to do. We're finished with the first round. Second round, who would like to speak? Tang Ka-piu, myself, Chan Kam Lam, Albert Chan, 4 minutes each. If it goes beyond 11, well, I would announce that the meeting would be extended. 4 minutes each anyway. Tang Ka-piu. If you can't answer me now, give me supplementary information paper. So, when it comes to sea transport, what is the surface capacity? I've heard from the AA, and the director has also given me some answers about deployable services. What about Hong Kong-Macau jet foil service? Can it be used? Can it, say for example, provide a service every 15 minutes? Let them drop by at the Sky Pier so that residents in Tung Chung and Lantau can get home? The operation of the bridge is very much linked with the airport. So does it mean that if the bridge is closed, the airport operation will come to a halt as well? The Marine Department said that they will deploy more resources and manpower to patrol the area. So would you say, for example, increase the number of launches from 1 to 3? But what about the method of patrol? Just by visual inspection? How can you tell that it is under 41 meters? The question is similar to Mr. Toe's. I'll give you the information after the meeting.
Regarding the importance of the Tsing Ma Bridge, indeed, it is very closely connected related to the operations of the airport or airport. Of course, we don't want a similar accident to happen. But if should there be another accident, Mr. Albert Chen asked us to consider whether or not we should, close off the bridge whenever an incident happens. We need to consider that carefully. I will ask the acting director to explain the patrol that they conduct at sea. At the moment, we have deployed one patrol boat to patrol the height restriction area near the Kap Shui Mun Bridge to prevent, very tall vessels from entering the area. We have also required tugboats with cranes. If the cranes exceed 35 meters in height, then the top 6 meters of the crane will need to be painted red. And I think that can help us, identify those vessels which might, exceed the height restriction. We are also working on a plan to deploy patrol boats to patrol the area on a permanent basis in the area near the Kap Shui Mun Bridge. So does the experience tells you that only when you have tugboats with a crane, that would be near 41 meters in height. I think it would mainly be this type of vessels. What about the other vessels? Would it be likely for them to also breach the height restriction? Well, the other vessels would be smaller vessels, and also so you're now asking them to paint the top section of the crane, which is painted red and white, and for more than 10 years, the trade has been complying with this requirement. Well, there would be also a lamp, at the top of the mast. So that has been the operation over the years. So the accident actually was an accident. Yes, yes. I'd like to follow up with a short question. I just really want to know, in the evening when the incident happened, the patrol boat should have been there. It should have observed that the tugboat had not really lowered this crane. So would there be someone who is stationed at the end of at the control center? Yeah, but we were not. No, going back to my earlier remark. You spend $100 billion to build a bridge. You depend on one single patrol boat to patrol the area. And then if there's a vessel exceeding the height, it will hit the bridge within 2 minutes. On the day in question, your patrol boat could not identify this vessel which hit the bridge. So why did this happen, Director? Well, that is why, for the time being, we'll deploy one additional patrol boat. Does it mean that you've actually missed the boat in question during the inspection? Well, the vessel is not enough to deploy a single patrol boat there. For the time being, we will deploy one additional patrol boat to closely monitor the area near the bridge. So the vessel costs $150 billion to build the third runway. In future, should there be a similar accident, which at the bridge, and the bridge will need to be closed for 2 or 3 days. So there won't be any land transport, there won't be any rail connection. We have to rely on the ferries alone. And there is a link road to Tuen Mun. The West Rail is already saturated. So people have to drive to the airport. And if we go to Tuen Mun with so many vessels, using the link road going to Tuen Mun, and then they will come back Tong Ka Island. Not to mention the time after the third runway is built. If the bridge has been closed for a few days, let's say nothing happened in 4 years. So 4 years from now to the time the third runway is built, we don't know how long that will be. So if there is no real new rail link with Lantau, how do you think we can support the third runway if anything should happen to the bridge? Have you conducted such a study? Honestly, we have not conducted such a comprehensive assessment at this stage. We believe that the link between Tuen Mun and Chelap Kok going forward will greatly help resolve the problem we discussed earlier. We need to come up with a new contingency plan when the new link road is built. Well, I don't think you can tell. Most people go to the airport from the urban area in Hong Kong Island. They will need to go to Tuen Mun. That may not be your business, but the government will have to tell you. Only then they will only then can they cross the bridge, and there won't be any rail link. You have to depend on the buses. How many buses can replace the AEL? What is the carrying capacity per hour of the AEL? I don't know. I sit on the subcommittee monitoring the third runway. The next time you consider the third railway project, please also come up with a contingency plan. If we still have to rely on this bridge alone, and the next additional, rail link with Lantau, we don't know when that will be built, and I don't know how you'll be able to cope. Chin Kam Lam, I must respond to Albert Chan's repeated distortion of the facts. And attack the DAB using the proposal to build the Qinglong Bridge. Route 10 was planned in the 1990s. There were two sections proposed. A northern section was Route 10. We felt at the time that Route 3 was parallel to Route 10. It's very easy for Route 3, which had a 70% spare capacity, thus resulting in vicious competition and making Route 3 not viable. That's why we objected to the building of the north section. As for the southern section, we fully supported the proposal to build the southern section. And this is true. I think we can all check the records at the time. Ms. Albert Chan did not ignore the facts and instead distorted it and said that we objected to the proposal to build the link bridge. Subsequently, we were discussing the design. We discussed the design of the Zhuhai Hong Kong Macau Bridge. We proposed that this proposed link should also be included into the Macau Zhuhai Hong Kong Bridge, and the government accepted the DAB's proposal. Later on, one of the purpose for this additional link is to link up with container terminal number 10 and 11. But the plan to build those two container terminals were shelved. As a result, it was felt that given we have a new link road with the airport, so that project was shelved. So we really regret that Mr. Albert Chan has once again put the blame on the DABs at the time, and what the DAB did at the time. Regarding the link read, I think we all know that the Housing Authority at the time wanted to focus on its core duty, that is the building of public housing, and therefore decided to dispose of all its shopping centers and car parks. And this was also supported by the majority of the community. Of course, over the years, the link grid had improved upon the environment of the shopping center, and this is also true. All that require capital. The so-called rental increases. Honestly, over the recently there have been drastic increase in rents for the tenants of the shopping centers. We have actually communicated with the link grid, put forward proposals for improvement, and also how we can improve on and how we could assist the shop tenants. And we've also obtained some cooperation from the link grid. The link management had actually done what it had to do to help the property value appreciate. And for the residents of Hong Kong, even those living in the public housing estates, would agree that the shopping centers now managed by the link grid is better than what they used to be when it was managed by the housing department. Well, Chairman, I don't know whether this question has been asked before. My question is about the Sky Pier. The accident along Kap Shui Mun Bridge shows that over the last 18 years, the government has not made any adjustments in the light of the population increase in Tung Chung, and it also shows that in the original plan we have the Sky Pier, but now it is considered a restricted zone for transit passengers. So for this arrangement, could the government fine-tune this arrangement in the medium and long term and come up with some changes and take the Sky Pier out of the restricted zone? Or like some residents have suggested, we could operate a local ferry service, there. So that when another accident happens, then we don't have to only be able to come up with a contingency plan within 2 hours. If the land link is closed, there would at least be another alternative option for people to go to the airport, so that we can really cope with an accident which happens only once in 18 years. So, Mr. Secretary, is the arrangement in respect of the Sky Pier against the original planning intention? I think the position of the Sky Pier is for the transit arrangements for passengers from the at the PRD region. And like we said earlier on, if need be, we can use the Sky Pier to take people from the airport to other parts of the territory. Okay, with that, I think, sorry, Ms. Albert Chan. No, I had put up my hand, and you also read out my name just now, except that I'm used to being overlooked. I'm sorry, Mr. Chen. Well, I think Mr. Chen Kam-lun said that they be objected to the northern section, Route 10, and supported the southern section. If you support the building of the Ching Ma Bridge and you objected to the North Lantau link, this is simply ridiculous. How can you only support the building of one section of the road? So this is really, he's really, evading his responsibility. He frankly admitted that there is spare capacity for Route 3. And therefore, he's putting the interest of Route 3 above that of the airport. Finally, we're talking about the interest of the consortium which owns Route 3. Chairman, I'd like to ask a question regarding the Marine Control Center, which is managed by the Marine Department. If you don't have a control center and you only rely on the patrol boat, I can understand. I don't understand why you are relying on the patrol boat. In Legislative, we've also asked the same question before. We pointed out that there is no control over South Lantau. Many vessels from the mainland come to Hong Kong water, arrive at Hong Kong waters, without any permission. I complain, I call up the Marine Department, and your people only arrive 45 minutes later. You have a Marine Department control center there. Why do you have to rely on the patrol boat to patrol the area? I don't understand. Perhaps the control center was not originally designed to cater for this. But, well, actually, I visited that center. It oversees the whole of the Ching Ma Bridge. It is in a much better vantage point than the patrol vessel. Why can't it control the sea traffic there?
Director, the control center will supervise the sea transport over that area. Well, I was talking about oversight. Well, at that time, during that collision, the Marine Department office did not see that coming at all. They did not know that it was higher than the limit. Well, that is an automated identification. So on radar, they did not know about the height of the vessel. What about visual inspection? There was no one stationed at the center to look at what is actually going on. No, it's just on radar. Then you have to review their function. You should use the Marine Center to supervise the area. Well, at that center, you can actually monitor the entire area at sea. You don't have to use the silly way to station a vessel there, because it will use a lot of money. you only need to improve the facilities and the function of the Marine Center. It can monitor the Tang Ka Bridge, Shui Mun, Lama Straits, Chun Wan, Cheng Yi. That location is very good when it comes to management. Then why don't you make better use of the center? We will look into that. So far, I think time's almost finished. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.